Hi there guys, it's Mallory here from Hackley Public Library, and tonight I'm going to show you how you can make your own do-it-yourself map coaster. So once we're done, this is what our coaster is going to look like. You can see it's using a tile, and we just have a nice picture of a map right over it, and it's really simple. And so for those that did register for a craft kit, the things that came in the kit were one tile, a map of Michigan. Now keep in mind you can use really whatever image you want. So if you want to do something different, you're more than welcome to. Now another thing that came in the kit was a paintbrush and also some Mod Podge. Now the good thing about Mod Podge or tacky glue like this is that it dries clear. So you don't have to worry about having any kind of, pasty looking residue. It's gonna dry clear. Now, something else that you're gonna want to have when doing this craft are some scissors. And just to kind of keep things from getting too messy, you might wanna use some type of paper towel or plate underneath your tile when you're Mod Podging. I'm just going to use a plastic bag like this. So, the first thing that we want to do is kind of determine what part of the map or what part of any image that you're using that you want to use for your tile. Now, just to kind of make sure that I have my tile completely covered around the top and then also the edges, I'm going to determine what part of the map I want to use. I think that I'm going to use Lower Michigan as the part for my tile. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to situate my map so that it curves over the edges of the tiles. Because when I have this thing entirely Mod Podged, I'm going to have the edges covered as well. You can see with the tile that's already made, I have the map wrapping around the edges. And it just gives it a little bit of a cleaner look. You can do it covering, or you don't have to, but I think that covering the edges does give it a little bit of a cleaner look. So I'm going to take my map here and just kind of wrap it around, just kind of eyeballing it to make sure that I'm going to have everything covered. Now we're not cutting anything quite yet, but I'm just making indents with folds around to make sure that I have the right size to go around my tile. Okay, so you can kind of see that I've made just some indents when folding my map around my tile, just to kind of ballpark where I want to cut the map. Now, it's okay to leave, more than not. So if I have a little extra paper that I'm going to have to snip once I get it on my tile, that's perfectly fine. You can always cut more, but it's kind of tricky to add later. So it's better to have more of your map for your tile that you can cut away versus having to add little slivers of paper to your tile after the fact. So I'm going to take my scissors and then I'm going to cut kind of around the indent so that it can wrap around my tile. Okay, so now I have my cut square of my map and I have my tile. And as you can see, placing the shiny part here, and then here's my map, placing this over that, and you can see the rough back. Just notice how I will be able to fold the edges, and it's okay if it goes a little over to the back. That's totally fine. But you just want to make sure that you have enough of your map to cover the edges. Now, something else that you're going to want to do is when you're trying to fold this over, it's easy to do one side, but then you run into a bit of a problem around the corners when you try to fold another side. So what I'm going to do is just do a little diagonal snip along each of these corners here. So let me demonstrate. See that? Cutting just a little snip so that it'll be easier to fold the corners once we actually do glue things in place. All right, so now I have all my edges just kind of snipped a little, and I'll show you what a difference that does make. So now, when I fold this over, it's gonna make it a little bit easier then to fold in the other edges. And then I can just kind of crisscross my page, and then this one will go under, this will go over and around. And then we'll use the Mod Podge, and that'll glue everything in place. All right, so when using the Mod Podge, we're first going to put a layer of Mod Podge over the shiny surface of the tile. Now you can, if you didn't get one of these craft kits from the library, we're just using bathroom tiles. You can get these types of tiles from any home improvement store, quite inexpensive. And when we're doing our layer of Mod Podge, we want to try to make it as smooth as possible. If you have a lot of ripples or texture in your Mod Podge, it might make it so that your map image will show some air bubbles. And that's okay, but it looks a little bit smoother when you're able to really just kind of smooth out your Mod Podge to a flat surface. Okay, so once we have the Mod Podge on our surface, we're also going to put some Mod Podge around the edges. Now you can always add more Mod Podge, of course, to the sides once we put our map on, but just to get it started, to give the map something to adhere to. Okay, so now that we have the Mod Podge on our tile, on the front and along the sides, I'm going to take my map now and situate it where I want to put it on my tile. And remember, we want to leave enough map pages to fold over so that it's covering the sides of the tile as well. And sometimes it helps to turn your tile over so that way you can kind of see where it is positioned as far as being evenly situated. All right, so see how I have my edges around to make sure that I have enough map to fold over. So now what I'm going to do, once I have it situated where I want to in the middle, I'm going to try to smooth it out just with my finger, just to kind of help additionally get any air bubbles out, to help smooth over the Mod Podge, just to give it a flatter surface. Okay, so now that I have my tile kind of, situated with my map, I'm going to turn it over and add more Mod Podge to the sides and start bending over my map. So adding some here, and remember, this will dry clear. I'm going to add some Mod Podge along the back of the map page as well, and around the corners. And then I'm just going to bend this over and smooth it out. Now this is a bit messy. Your fingers do tend to get kind of messy with the Mod Podge, but that's okay. Art's all about embracing the mess sometimes. And then notice how, remember, we cut these corners. I'm going to fold this corner in and then fold it over. So that makes it that I can now fold this bottom one. See how it has that corner there? I'm going to fold it up and then in, just to kind of give it a smooth corner. Just like that. I'm going to repeat the process for all of these edges. So remember, Mod Podge the edges and then fold up and over. Okay, so now that I have all of my corners folded over, you can see it kind of wraps around, I'm going to add just another thin kind of layer of Mod Podge around the edges just to make sure that it's secure. And it doesn't have to be a lot of Mod Podge around these edges, just enough to kind of adhere the rest of the loose ends of these edges to the tile. Okay, and you're going to want to be careful for this next move because there will be obviously glue on the back. You don't want it to stick to anything permanently, but I'm going to set it down here just for the time being so that I can Mod Podge my top. But when you do let this dry, maybe stick it upright against something just so that you don't have the back accidentally permanently sticking to whatever it is that you've been working on, such as the plastic bag or a paper towel or a plate. Okay, so now we're going to Mod Podge the front of the tile. Now, something that is kind of important to remember, if you handle the matte portion with your fingers a lot, some of the ink, the coloring might start to run or tear off while you're in the process of Mod Podging. So the thing that's important to remember is just do nice, easy brush strokes to make sure that everything is going kind of in a nice pattern. That way the ink or the imagery won't, tear up prior to it being fully dry. Because once you have it Mod Podged and dry, the surface is really great to stick cups on, to touch. You don't have to worry about the image moving or kind of tearing. But in the process of it drying, you just want to be careful. So I'm going to take my paintbrush with my Mod Podge and just start going in nice fluid motions and getting that Mod Podge right on the map. And remember, this glue does dry clear, so you can put as much as you want on. Not too much, of course, you don't want to completely drench it, but you can put enough on to make sure that it has that nice coating over it to help prevent the image from getting scratched up or scraped once it's dry. Okay, so now that I have a layer of Mod Podge done onto my tile here, I'm just going to kind of very carefully just smooth out any bubbles that I see. Remember, we don't want to scrape it too hard with our fingers while it's still wet because we don't want to, rub the picture image or the ink too much while it's drying. But just kind of, smooth out any air bubbles that we may see. And once it dries a little bit, then I'm going to add another layer of Mod Podge just to kind of give it that secure feel. So I'm just going to let this dry a little bit and then add another layer. Okay, so after doing a second coating of the Mod Podge on the tile, it is now finished. So you can see again, we did do the paper all around the edges here just to kind of wrap it and give it that complete look. But you can see that it's kind of shiny from the Mod Podge from that glue, and it's dry, and so you can put your cups on here. You don't have to worry about the paper scratching or ripping. And it's really simple just to make your own coaster. And again, you can use whatever type of paper that you want if you want to do this again and have different imagery. Really, the world is your oyster. You can have so much fun creating different types of coasters that you can decorate with your home or give as gifts even. But so here are the two examples. Again, just really easy, really fun to do. And so we hope that you had a good time with this craft. You can find materials for these at craft stores, and you can find tiles at home improvement stores. So just something that's really fun and really easy to put together. So thanks again, guys, for joining us for this do-it-yourself matte coasters craft. We hope you had fun with it. We hope you're able to make some really cool ones. Feel free to share pictures in the comments if you want to of the coasters that you make, and also just be on the lookout for upcoming programs with Hackley Library. Tomorrow evening, we're going to be having a virtual program on travel. It's called Travel Light, and it's going to be presented by author and blogger Laura Holmes. And she's going to be giving great insight into traveling locally and regionally, but also giving some great tips and tricks and insight into her travels that she has done here in Michigan, throughout the United States, and even abroad. So something to look forward to. You can visit hackleylibrary.org or visit our Facebook page for more details on signing up for that free program. So thanks again, guys, and we hope you had a great time and enjoy the rest of your night.